Welcome back to the Victory Podcast. I'm your host, Steve McGrath, and this week I'm pleased to bring you my conversation with Devin Aromashodu. Now, perhaps like me, you remember Devin most as either a Chicago Bear or a Minnesota Viking, but Devin also won a Super Bowl as a member of the Indianapolis Colts. So he reflected on his 7-year career in the NFL. We talked about his Auburn days before that and what he's even doing today. He's a lone originator for the southeastern part of the United States. So if you're looking for a new home in the Southeast, Devin's definitely your guy. Hit him up on LinkedIn. But before we get into his conversation, I need to remind you all that we are brought to you by Team Builder. And Team Builder works with over 500 high school football programs nationwide, as well as the NFL and colleges. So if you're looking for more information about the weight room, how to set that up, how to fine tune the program maybe you already have, go there, check them out, show them some love, use the promo code VICTORY, and you're going to get a free gift. Now, without any further ado, here's my conversation with Devin. On the line, I am pleased to welcome Devin Aromashodu. Devin, thank you for taking the time today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing phenomenal. Thank you for asking. Of course, we're recording this on a Monday. Happy Martin Luther King Day to everyone out there.
Likewise.
But what did you see? I think you said you watched a little bit of the Kansas City Titans game. When you're watching the game today, what do you really look for? I mean, is there anything in particular, just having played wide receiver, like the way you watch the game? Do you sort of key in on certain things whenever you're watching teams line up and play?
I definitely obviously look at the defense and what they're doing and where they're aligned at, and I kind of try to put myself in the position of the quarterback to try to understand what he's going to do and what he should be doing just based off of the defense. So once I see the whole play, because I don't know their play, but once I see the whole play, I can kind of understand better where he should have went with the ball, or if he went to the right spot, or if it was the receiver's fault or the quarterback's fault. So that's kind of the way I watch the game from a skill position standpoint.
Sure. Now, watching Kansas City, though, because they're going to be playing in the Super Bowl, um, do you see anything in particular in offense that they're doing that is just next level, or is it really just pure talent? I mean, very few people can ever throw the ball like Mahomes, let alone have receivers like Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins.
I mean, I think it's just what the game is changing to. Honestly, I mean, you when you spread teams out, you're able to neutralize what a defense can do versus just being more old school where it's established to run game and then throw the ball. A lot of teams have noticed, even at the college level, when you spread a team out, you can keep up with a team that's not as good as you because you spread them out and you put guys in a one-on-one situation. So I think with that, coupled with having a premier quarterback who can also run the ball, is going to be tough to stop with any team. Kind of
Oh,
like
yeah.
how the Baltimore Ravens were. So
Yeah, yeah. But just speaking of the college game, of course, LSU has this ridiculous year, and even Auburn, for considering they had a freshman quarterback, they had a really good year, and the future continues to look very bright for them. Is there anything or any teams in particular that you're really looking forward to watch next year with all the seniors and underclassmen that are going to be going pro?
I think it'll be, even though I'm not a fan of Alabama, I think it's going to be an interesting year for them.
Yeah.
They're coming off of probably, obviously, it was still a great year for them, but one of their worst seasons. But that says a lot for their standards that they have there. But they'll be making a lot of transitions and they have a lot of guys leaving. So I'm interested to see what type of Alabama team we see. With all these other SEC teams that are kind of building off of last year. What response we get from Alabama and Coach Saban.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see the job that he does, and thankfully for him, LSU is going to have to reload like across the board with everyone that just declared it, and Joe Burrow, of course,
Right.
going to the NFL. But Devin, what I wanted to do is really sort of walk this back. So before we could even have this conversation, you have this NFL career. Like every other athlete, you were just a young kid in high school. So if I actually have this right, your father was an immigrant from Nigeria. So could you just sort of set the stage of how you even get here? What was it like growing up? How did you first become interested in football? What did your dad think of it?
Well, I mean, to be honest, all my dad watched, even though my dad did come from Nigeria, and their first sport there is soccer. My dad became a football fan pretty quick. I don't know if he was one before he got here, but all he watched was football. So that's kind of I grew up watching the Miami Dolphins with Dan Marino, Mark Clayton, Mark Duper, and all those guys. That's what I grew up watching and knowing. And that's kind of how I got into it. And I remember when I got my first piece of paper to sign up for tackle football when I was 9, I was just excited to go out there and just give it a shot. So that was my first taste of it. But my dad was definitely he was happy about me, playing sports. I don't know how he felt about it overall because school was always important to him, but he definitely I think he was happy overall that I was at least giving it a try.
Yeah, but you ultimately end up developing into not just a football player, but you're a phenomenal track athlete in high school, and you play basketball as well. You know, how did you sort of juggle your different interests? Because obviously you're a talented athlete. At what point did you really want to focus on football?
I played all of them all up until my senior year in high school. I knew I excelled at football more than I did the others, but I just enjoyed playing them because my friends played them, and it's just something that kept me busy. So, and I was competitive. So if there's anything that I could do, it didn't even have to be, an organized sport. If it was something competing, I always wanted to do it and try my luck against everyone else. So that's what kept me playing everything else. But my offers for college came in football. So I kind of knew that that's the path I was going to take.
Yeah, well, I mean, being a top sprinter in the state of Florida, I mean, just having that athleticism and speed, tie that to any sport, and I'm sure you're going to turn heads. And that's exactly what you do in football. But I wanted to ask because I saw this. You're playing a little bit of receiver, defensive back, kick returner. I even think that I saw it in your senior year. You would rush the ball a fair amount as well. How did you really end up playing receiver? Because it seems like you were just a very athletic kid, and they were kind of your coaches were playing you everywhere.
I knew I always wanted to play receiver. That was the position I wanted to play. I kind of excelled a little bit on defense, but receiver was always my dream position. When I watched the game, when I watched the college level, the NFL level, I definitely watched the receivers. And that was what I always wanted to play. I grew up watching the '96 Gators, so that was my team to watch. And I always wanted to be like that group of players.
Sure. Now, you've already mentioned, Mark Duper and Clayton. Was there anyone in particular that you remember back in high school that you were looking at as like that one or two sort of premier players that you were trying to model your game after?
Um, I would say, I mean, some people laugh when I say this person's name, but I like the way he played. Keyshawn Johnson was one of my favorite receivers when I was a little older in high school. I think he was probably a little bit bigger than me, maybe not as fast as I was, but I just liked his game, and I figured myself as a bigger receiver. So he was just someone I like to watch. Him and Marvin Harrison, who I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to play with, were two people I watched in my high school days.
Yeah, and Keyshawn might not be that number one answer that jumps to most people's minds, but I really like that in terms of that's a name where if you know football, you can picture his style. He had a certain style that he played with, and he had style off the field and the swagger as well. But very cool that it was Keyshawn that kind of stuck out for you. I want to just fast forward a little bit though to at the end of your senior year, right? You have to make a decision where you want to play, and of course, we know that you go with Auburn. But being from Florida, I'm pretty sure that Miami, or at least the Gators anyway, were going to be on your radar. How did you ultimately decide to go to Auburn, and who really were the top schools that you had narrowed everything down to?
Well, that's funny that you asked that. That's kind of a tricky story. So being from Miami, I knew I was going to take. You get five. Well, at least then you got 5 official visits, and I was definitely very interested in using all of my visits. But I knew in my heart, honestly, I was going to go to Florida, and that's the school I wanted to go to. And that was the year that Spurrier took the job with the Redskins in the during the Christmas break. So when the season was over, Spurrier took the job with Florida. So I was basically a silent commit there, but I was planning on committing to them during signing day in the spring, but I was just going to go and explore other schools. If something jumped out at me, then it may shake stuff up a little bit. But I was always going to Florida. But when he left and Ron Zook took over, and he was a defensive coordinator, so that kind of changed my mind on wanting my interest on wanting to actually go to Florida because it wasn't going to be the same team that I grew up watching, the same offense really, which is what I was focused on. And I just kind of had to sit down and just think about everything over again. And thank God I didn't, burn any bridges or anything. I took my visits and I went to NC State, which I liked because Philip Rivers was there. So I was going to get at least 1 year, maybe two. I can't remember, 1 or 2 years with Philip Rivers. Um, Ohio State I liked just because that's probably where I would have went to school had it not been for the weather. And I have a funny story. I was I was getting recruited by Ohio State, and they were like, the recruit was like, the coach was like, I need to know if you're coming here because we got a guy a few miles up from here who's ready to commit to us. And lo and behold, that was Antonio Holmes who wanted to go to Ohio State. So I ended up saying that I did. I ended up telling him I didn't want to go there. Santonio Holmes commits there and has a great career. But Ohio State, NC State, and I still had Florida in there. And when I went to Auburn, I wasn't really expecting. I wasn't expecting to just be won over like I was, but when I went there, I had a good feeling about everything, and I enjoyed my visit. And I knew Jason Campbell had been there; he redshirted, and he was going to be one of the premier quarterbacks in the SEC. So I knew I'd have the opportunity to play with him. So that was what kind of pulled me there. Then they brought in Bobby Petrino, who he was a had a good offense. Was a good offensive coordinator. So that was something that kind of swayed my decision. But this all really didn't start until around December or January because I was always focused on going to Florida.
Wow. So, I mean, that's a short period of time for you to kind of turn the page, keep an open mind, try to take in all these different things. But like you said, Auburn kind of presented sort of a perfect storm there. And as it would turn out, right, a couple of years later, you would absolutely be proved that that was the right decision to make.
Yep.
But I just wanted to quickly ask about Tommy Tuberville, who had a pretty good track record there. From what I could see, a great coach, successful coach. What would you say just about Coach Tuberville in terms of his personality and what made him have the level of success that he was ultimately able to achieve?
I think you got different type of coaches. He was definitely a player's coach. He was somebody that, if the player says something, he would listen to what they have to say. And if it was reasonable, he would fight for it. If you did something and, he thought you may not do it again, he definitely wouldn't, give you the worst penalty possible for it. So he definitely trusted us, and you could tell he was on our side, so his way of handling things was more, you know, more, I guess, just for the players rather than kind of just, you guys are gonna do what I say no matter what type of person. So it definitely worked with us, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my 4 years playing with him. I'm playing
Now,
under him.
I got to bring up the junior year that you had because, if you had that your junior year today, there's 4 teams that make the college football playoffs. The best 4 duke it out. Now, your junior year, 2004, probably is like the case study as to why this needed to happen. Because how often
Right.
does a team go undefeated? And we're not talking about some small time school that, who are they playing? I mean, you guys ripped through the SEC and went undefeated, but somehow 2 other teams are undefeated as well. So USC and Oklahoma get a duke it out for the national title, and somehow Auburn doesn't get invited. Can you walk me through what you were feeling junior year when that happens? Because that's just like every player's worst nightmare,
Man,
I'd
that's
imagine.
it was tough. It was definitely tough. I mean, we definitely earned everything we had that year. Like we had been through so much, that group of players. It wasn't something that we didn't come overnight. We had been through a lot to get to that point and to know that there was not much we could do. Just basically with us being ranked lower than the other teams, I think just wasn't enough people that were going to vote us ahead of either one of those teams, even though, we definitely did have a tougher schedule. Um, and the one thing that may have hurt us, even though I don't even think it would have changed anything, but we didn't, we had a run first type of offense. So we definitely weren't going to win with style points, even though we did beat some teams pretty good, but we weren't going to just blow a team out of the water because that's not the type of offense we had. But it was tough. It was tough for everybody, but we kind of knew we always had an outside shot because we knew one of those teams had to lose, and it was just that feeling in the back of our head that we couldn't do anything. And I always look at it today. I was like, the way they view the SEC, they would never allow that. Even if it was just a two team championship, they would never allow an undefeated SEC team to not play for the title.
I
But
know.
what hurt even more was for Oklahoma to go out there and put on the game they did, which I don't know if you remember, they lost by, I think it had to be like 50 something points.
Yeah, it was.
So it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and you guys had won the Sugar Bowl too. But I mean, just that team though. You say a run first team. Well, when you have Cadillac and Ronnie Brown, it's kind of hard to not you utilize
Right.
those guys with Ben Grubbs and McNeil. I mean, great offense. They're just great talent everywhere.
Right.
And now that being said, did you have any second thoughts about at the end of your junior year declaring to go pro? Was that ever something that you ever thought about?
No, no, I didn't. I didn't have. I mean, I know I didn't have the numbers. I mean, we just didn't. I didn't have anything to justify it. I mean, a lot from what I've seen. I don't know. I'm not a scout, but they do look at your numbers and your yards, and then if you were most of the receivers that had the numbers were on the West Coast. So my
Sure.
numbers just didn't compare to the Big 12 and the West Coast guys to even think about leaving early. I had the yards per catch, but my overall yards and receptions just, I mean, those guys were catching 50 to 80 balls, and I'm
Right.
catching less than 30 balls. So but yeah, no, I never thought about that.
Gotcha. So you do, of course, play your senior year, and you put up a pretty similar type of stat line that you did the year before. So at the end of your college career, how did you feel about your chances to get drafted? Based off of what you just said, you know that the West Coast guys are putting up such gaudy numbers. Did you feel confident that you were going to be able to make it in the NFL?
Well, always felt confident I was going to be able to make it just because of the talent I did play against. Because you kind of see guys you play against make that transition to the NFL, and you kind of stack yourself up against them. So if you get the chance, you'll be able to make it. It just was in an offense that just didn't allow me to fully take it, fully reach my, I guess, potential as far as what I could have done at the college level. But I knew I had a chance, and just speaking with different agents, they were telling me that that I could get drafted, and I would definitely, at worst case scenario, have an opportunity to make a football team. So that helped, and then playing in the Senior Bowl, because you get to play against a lot of great players from across the nation, and obviously compare yourself to them. So after playing in that game, I knew that I was capable of playing at the next level, and I knew I could run. So the NFL likes speed. That's something you can't teach. So I knew I always had that going for me.
Yeah. Would you run like a 4.35 40?
Right. Yeah. Around 4.35 at the combine. Yes.
Yeah, that'll always turn some heads. And sure enough, of course, you do get drafted. But can you just walk me through that 2006, what would have been your rookie year? Because you get drafted by Miami late in the draft, but then
Mhm.
ultimately, if I have this right, you didn't make the roster.
Right.
So what's that roller
I
coaster?
yeah, I didn't make the roster there, and that's my first time. That's my first time. So when you don't make the roster, you don't have anything to do. It's pretty much over at that point, and you're waiting. So that's my first time going through that period of being cut. And I got a call the next day, and my agent said, "Well, pack your bags. You're going to Indianapolis." And the lady called me to set up my flight and stuff, and she knew how to pronounce my last name and everything. And she was like, she's like, I know all this information about you because we were about to draft you until the Dolphins took you. So,
Wow.
everyone is here kind of excited that we got this opportunity to still get you. So, it was kind of a blessing in disguise that the Lord worked out for me to be able to go to a team that actually, was going to draft me. So, it worked out.
Yeah, and nothing against Miami, right? But for you to go from there to the Colts, where you want to learn how to play in the NFL? Well, we're going to give you one of the best quarterbacks of all time, Peyton Manning. You're a receiver. Well, great. You're going to be an understudy to Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, who you already
Right.
mentioned. And, oh, by the way, Tony Dungy's your coach, and we're going to win a Super Bowl, in 2007. I mean, talk about going from, again, nothing against Miami, but, one
Right.
extreme to like, am I going to make this team or not, to being on a team with all the right pieces in place. Of
Yeah,
course,
that was go ahead.
go on.
Yeah, that was a dream come true. And then the Super Bowl was in Miami, which is where I'm from. So I mean, that was just the icing on the cake. But it was a dream come true. I was nervous when I first got there because, instead of use like in the off season, you get to kind of ease your way into everything. I'm coming in the first week of practice, so I don't know anyone. I'm just out in pads, and obviously you got all these people that are going to be future Hall of Famers on his football team. And I was a little nervous the first week, but after that I was like, man, this is I just totally forgot about everything in Miami. I was like, this is somewhere I can be and learn. And definitely playing in Indianapolis and all my experiences there helped build my foundation and kept me in the NFL for 7 years.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask that, how much did being around those guys and that team success early on, how much did that give you a foundation? And you just said that it did, but is there anything in particular you could point to, just certain things that maybe you learned to either just be a professional, to set the right culture, or even just being a receiver? Was there anything in particular you learned from a skill set?
I mean, it was everything. Everything, obviously, my first year there, we won the Super Bowl, but everything from top to bottom was just ran how an organization, in my opinion, should be ran, from the owner all the way down to, I mean, the cooks are the people that clean. Everything was just pristine. And, playing receiver was great to learn from those guys. All I had to do was just watch. And, Coach Dungy was a great coach. Um, he was a player's coach as well, played the game, which helped. So, he knew when to turn it on, when to turn it off. The ownership was great. I mean, you just sit in meetings, and I just sit back and I just learn and listen and just watch. And I did learn how to be a professional there. And that's, like I said before, that's just what helped mold me the next 6 years of my career. But everything there was great. I mean, everything I remember from there, I used later on in my career.
Gotcha. So, but before you get to your NFC North time, you have a stint with the Redskins, and yes, you get to team up with your old quarterback again. But if we want to talk about the success that the Colts had and all the pieces there, Jim Zorn's a new coach at the time. Santana Moss, Antoine Randall, get some good receivers there, but how much now this is you're I don't even know what number of team,
My
because I know you had practice squad stints elsewhere, but from your time there, I mean, how much were you able to kind of in your mind figure out, just from seeing all the way that these different coaches and teams and players were operating, how to sort of be able to sort of flip that switch, that no matter what circumstance you walked into, because of course Chicago would be soon thereafter, for you to be able to kind of forget everything you just learned and then learn something new again?
That part became the norm for me because I'd been on maybe 4 teams in 3 years. So I was one thing I think I had, an advantage I had, I did pick up offenses very well. So I consider myself a smart player. So I knew what I was supposed to do. So once I picked something up, I had it. But playing in Indianapolis basically gave me the confidence that I could play in any offense with any group of receivers, because it wasn't going to get too much better than that group there from top to bottom on offense. So just the professionalism there and the way they practice just gave me the confidence to know that whatever other 31 teams I went to, I'd be able to compete for a position.
Yeah. So let's just jump into '09, because you get a chance to crack through with Chicago, and like the last four games of that season, you finally get a show on the field of what I'm sure you've been practicing forever, but be able to do what you were doing in college and put up numbers. What did it feel like for you to finally be able to like actually get the ball in your hand, on a Sunday, or even the Monday night overtime game? Just what was it like for you to finally be able to prove that you can actually do this?
It felt good. I mean, it was a feeling I had been searching for a long time. it felt real good to go out there and just catch the ball. It'd been a while since I had got that many balls thrown to me in a real football game. So it felt good, and I just wanted to go out there and play my best and prove that I could play at this level.
Right. And not your first year in Chicago, I'm pretty sure they go 7-9, but the following year, it's an 11-win team with Mike Martz as the offensive coordinator. Do you remember that time, sort of how the team was able to make that much of a jump from year to year? Was it just a change in OC? Do you recall any specifics?
I mean, it was a little bit of everything. I mean, we were 7-9 that year before, but we were a good team because if you notice, it was a lot of the same players on that team
Right.
um, that were on the previous team. So it was more so of us just believing in ourselves. I think Cutler got another year. We were considered a young group of receivers, so all the receivers got another year. So I think it was more so the experience and tied in with Mike Martz and his offense that helped us establish that. And Chicago always kept a good defense, so they were going to be always be pretty good.
Now, I have to ask you just about Jay Cutler because someone he's always had a high profile. Even now in retirement, you see him. He just always seems like he's not phased by anything. I've seen the smoking Jay Cutler memes 1,000 times. What is what's just sort of your take on having played with Jay and been able to know him as well as you were?
Jay's a good dude. I mean, he's a competitor. He wants to win, just like everyone else out there. But he just obviously doesn't. I mean, at quarterback, I think you have to have a short memory. Quarterback and cornerback are two positions to where you can't think about really no position, but those two there. If you're thinking about what the mistake you made before, it will come back to haunt you. So he's a quarterback with he's extremely talented. I mean, I tell people probably one of the most, if not the most talented quarterback that I played with just physically. I mean, he can make some throws just off his back foot, and squeeze in certain windows that a lot of guys wouldn't even dare to do. But he's a great person. He always wanted to win. He just may look like that sometimes, obviously, because it's demeanor. But he always wanted to win and was very competitive.
Very cool. Now, I just want to sort of jump to the end of your career now because you do play, you have 2 good years in Minnesota. Now, going from Jay Cutler to, Christian Ponder, Donovan McNabb, Minnesota's kind of in a weird period trying to figure themselves out. How would you talk about your experience there? Because you did have your best year as a pro, but how did that compare to everything else?
It was fun. It was fun to go there because I get there. It's my 6th year in the NFL, so now I'm a veteran, and I'm on the kind of on the other side. So just being there with most of the players being, and with the new CBA is kind of changing the rosters around. So teams are keeping a larger number of lower salary players, which means a lot of younger players on the team. So just being there, just helping guys learn and just being a professional is really, what I went there to do. And I also had fun while I was there. Coach George Stewart, I think he's with the Chargers right now. He's probably my favorite receiver coach that I had. So I enjoyed playing under him, and it was just fun times. I got to play with Donovan McNabb, who I grew up watching. So I had a good time there, and we made the playoffs one year. So it was definitely fun, and I got to I started some games that year, a good number of games. So it was fun. I enjoyed my Minnesota.
Yeah, and again, you're in a position where your first year with this team, they actually, I'm pretty sure it was just like a 3-win season the first year, but the second, you guys make the playoffs. So another time where you're at a team and you see a big jump from year one to year two. I hate to sound like a broken record, but I mean, I just love when coaches are able to come in and, change the culture and really see drastic improvement from, year to year. Do you recall anything about what Coach Frazier was doing about getting that team from where they were to, making the playoffs?
Um, I mean, he focused on a lot of little things. He wanted everything. We had Ponder, who was going to be the future quarterback, and we come into his second year, so he knows for sure it's his job. He's not fighting with anyone over it. And we had a good defense. And Coach Frazier was with Coach Dungy while I was at Indianapolis. So a lot of the same qualities and things we did over there was a lot of stuff he brought over to that team. So I think just that same coaching style, just believing in the players and letting everyone go out there and do their job was kind of what got us to that point. Um, he just we knew if we could get a team inside that stadium in that dome, then it was gonna be tough for them to beat us. So we didn't lose many games in there, and that's pretty much what catapulted us into the playoffs. We were tough to beat at home.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, so I just kind of wanted to end your NFL career with how your NFL career ends. You in 2013, you have a chance to try to make the Bears roster again, but now this time it's Coach Trestman. The receivers have completely changed over with Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall. Do you just remember when things at the end of summer there don't go the way that I'm sure you had planned? What was the decision like for you to hang it up? How often or how hard were you going to push to make another team? This was, going into like what, year 8. So how
Right.
easy or hard was it for you to be like, you know what, I'm ready to turn the page to the next part of my life?
Well, I got cut that summer, and I talked to my agent. I didn't think it was over for me, so I had to stay in shape because you work out for teams, and me being a veteran, they could always call me in at any point. So I just stayed in shape. I stayed in shape the whole football season, and then the rest of that, and the next off season. And I didn't. I got a couple calls during the season, but nothing for real ever ended up happening. In the next season, I didn't get anything, and I was like, okay, this is probably the end of the road for me. So after that, I'm kind of just transitioning into figuring out what I want to do and going back to school because I didn't have my degree. So that was one of the first things I wanted to
So how easy was that for you to do, to be like, okay, this is over. I now need to do something different? Because guys can, struggle with it. Some are okay if those guys tend to be able to do it more on their terms. But, for you to just sort of unceremoniously be waiting for a phone call and then to be like, you know what, I'm going to go get my degree, and you just start on a new path. How did you actually decide what you wanted to do?
It was well. Going back to your first question, it wasn't easy. It was something you've been doing for. If you're in the NFL, you've been doing it for at least 10 years. You figure you played high school ball, so it's all you knew. You were used to schedule, used to doing this, used to doing that, and now it just kind of stops. So for some people, it's too much free time. For others, it's a relief. For me, it was a little bit of both. I was relieved to not have to worry about that stress of whether I was going to be there or not because my career was not in just one city. So that was a relief for me not to have to worry about whether I had to pack my stuff up and go to another city and start my life off there. And then just to kind of also to have that free time to just be able to relax. So I definitely took about 6 to 9 months off just to really do nothing. I think I owed it to myself just to relax and just enjoy a little bit of, the stuff I kind of missed because just going from college football at a high level to the NFL and from city to city was just, the years passed me by. So, I just took some time to just relax and just enjoy it, doing absolutely nothing. And that's what I did for at least 6 months. I didn't do anything. I just woke up, relaxed, and just enjoyed being free from doing anything I was required to do.
Well, good. You definitely deserved it. But I think one thing that kind of gets looked over when the average fan looks and like, well, he played 2 years in Chicago, 2 years in Minnesota. Like, it's the same conference. They're not that far from one another. But you're playing, from what I could see, on 1 year deals. So
Right.
besides the fact that you can get cut at any point, at the end of each year, it's never guaranteed that you're going back to the same team. So you literally, I'd imagine, kind of always had your bags packed. I mean, just that stress of never really knowing where am I going to be a year from now, that would weigh on anyone.
Right. Yeah, definitely would. And that part I just got used to. And my love for the game was able to conquer that fear. So I knew my job was just get out there and play. And after the first couple times I got cut, it wasn't. I didn't even think about it anymore. And when I didn't think about it anymore, I was just playing, and I wasn't getting cut. So I just didn't worry about that, and I knew, it was just part of what I signed up to do. So I'm not the only one that's doing it, and not the only one that has to go through it. So it's just if I want to play bad enough, I continue to put up with it, and that's what I did.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's been a couple years since you've last played. And now, according to LinkedIn, you've entered, being a mortgage banker. So so I'm assuming you did get that degree that you went back for, but how did you get to this point now where you're, established in a new career? How, maybe why in the mortgage industry, and just sort of like, how did you ultimately get yourself there?
Um, well, just it's a funny story. So I ran into one of my friends I played with at Auburn, and he's a manager for a mortgage company, for a mortgage office. And I was just talking with him, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And he was like, "Well, you could try this business out and see how you like it." And I was definitely something I didn't know much about mortgage banking, but I said, okay, I'll try it out. I'm competitive. I learned about it, and obviously, what it is helping people obtain financing to purchase a home. So once I learned about it, and I was able to help the first borrower I had get into a home, is something I liked and I enjoyed doing, and I saw myself I was able to make a difference in someone's life, and then also get paid to do it. So
Right.
just that part alone there, just to be a part of making a difference and help someone make that huge step in purchasing a home, because most of the time that's going to be your biggest purchase in life, is a home purchase. So just
Sure.
being able to be part of that process and having the knowledge that I have to be able to help people that are my age get into a home is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, going back to your playing days, you seemed like you were always, pretty active with trying to give back to the community with various things that were going on. Is that something that you're still doing now I don't know if there's any particular, foundations or any specific causes that are special to you?
Yeah, I'm definitely still doing that. I always try to get to, underprivileged areas, people that may not have the same things that, other people have in certain areas. Just give them hope. That's my big thing. I've done camps at my high school, which is in Miami, and my main thing I always stress there is I want it's important for me to get as many players, NFL players, to come as possible, because I want the kids there to have hope that whatever they want to do, they can do, and just be able to see it. So when you're able to see it, you're like, okay, it gives you kind of just lights a little fire, like, okay, I can do this, versus seeing something on TV and seeing these people on TV. When you actually get to see them in person, just gives you a little bit of hope that not everything's not lost, and what you're trying to do is not just some pipe dream. So that's one thing I stress is hope, and I do love giving back to the community.
That's great. That's so awesome. Well, Devin, the way that I normally end the podcast is with a little thing that I call the gauntlet. So I hope you're ready. I have a couple of quick hitter questions that I need to get your answer on. Tell me, what is most important in winning? Is it having the number one offense or the number one defense?
Number one, defense.
That's the trend. That's the trend with the
Yeah,
last few
it
guests.
hurt me to say that, but it is the truth. I'm an
I
offense
could
guy, but it is the truth.
I heard it in your voice. You weren't happy about it. Now, did you have a pregame ritual that you'd stick to?
um, I prefer to listen to my music and not really talk. Just when I got on the bus to head to the game, and all the way through until the beginning of the game, I just wanted to focus on the plays and just get myself in the right mindset. I didn't really want to be around people. That was kind of my pregame ritual. I enjoyed being just by myself and just thinking about what was about to happen.
Gotcha. Now, you played on so many different teams, and we've already talked about a lot of these guys, but would you, if you could pick one or maybe, two or three people, who would you say is the most talented teammate that you've ever had?
Talented teammate. Mm. I play with a lot of a lot of players, a lot of talented guys. Um, I mean, Peyton Manning mentally he's like a brain surgeon out there. He knows everything everyone is going to do, when they're going to do it. He's probably 95% of the time he's right as far as when he's dissecting a defense, and that made it easy for everyone. So just as far as his mental capacity was just amazing. I mean, he was like a rocket scientist or something out there. But Peyton Manning, I would say Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison was just, I mean, he was just smooth, fast, quick. Um, and I was a receiver, so I mean, I considered it. I'm always going to go with a receiver on as far as that one. But those two
Sure.
guys probably were two extremely talented people that I played with.
Two Hall of Famers. And side question here: do you think we'll ever see Peyton coming back as a coach in some way?
I don't know. I've never seen him in that light. I mean, he could definitely do it, but I've never heard from anyone, and I've never really seen him transition into that. I don't think so. That's unfortunate because I think he'd do a good job, but I've not heard anything about him wanting to coach, any desires to coach.
Yeah, I've heard zero rumors, but just as you said, that rocket scientist, brain surgeon,
Right.
brain, and apply to football,
Yeah.
you kind of hope that
He
there'd be
could
a
he
way.
could definitely do it.
Oh,
There's
for
whether he
sure.
wants to, I think at this point it's obvious he probably doesn't, but he could definitely do it.
Gotcha. Now, was there ever one player or one coach that you just wish you would have had the chance to play with?
Player. Let me see. Take me some time to think about that one. Uh, does it have to be a player I played with,
No,
or
was there ever just
oh,
a player or a coach that you wish you could have played with?
oh yeah, yeah. In history, I always Jerry Rice would have been one to play with, and just his work ethic. I think he would have got the best out of me just trying to keep up with him. And coach, um, I grew up a Miami fan, so that'd be Don Shula.
All right. You hear no argument from me in either of those. Now, what's most important? Is it the players or is it the scheme?
um, it's a tough question. It's both.
Oh, it's
It's
definitely
definitely
both.
both.
But if you had to
Yeah, oh,
pick one.
yeah. I can't. It's hard to pick one because you can have the right scheme, but well, you know what? It's the players. It's the
It-
players because I mean, players sometimes you have to. I mean, some coaches will say this sometimes in the meeting. You have to. I forget what the phrases they use, but they'll say you have to do something or outperform or overcome bad coaching. So sometimes a coach may put you in the wrong position, but if it's something you've seen before and you know what it is, as a veteran player, you know the adjustment to make. So it's definitely the players. It's all on the players, with that and also buying into what the coach wants to do. Because if the players don't believe in it, then it could be the greatest scheme in the world. It's not going to work. So it's definitely the players over the scheme.
I like that. I like your explanation a lot on it. I tend to agree. So, lastly, here, and I think it's the most important, considering everything you were able to accomplish, what is the best piece of advice that you would give to a young athlete that sees everything that you did and they want to make it to the NFL and have a long career too?
Stay confident in your ability and don't give up. Just stay confident in whatever you're doing because that is what's going to take you to the next level. That you get to where you get to for a reason. So the ability is there. You just have to find a way to continue to be consistent in showing that ability. So I think obviously the consistency falls when players lose confidence. So that's why you see all these guys, they transfer to other schools and they kind of regain that confidence and they become that player they once were. So I think just staying confident and believing in yourself is the key thing that will give you some longevity.
I like it a lot. It's the mental part.
Hmm.
Well, Devin, what's the general area that you're living in now?
I live in the Birmingham area,
All
so yeah.
right. Well, anyone in the Birmingham area looking for a home, Devin is the place that you want to go.
Yes, in the southeast, really. I'm licensed in Georgia, Florida,
Oh, all
so
right, all
anyone,
right. We got the
Alabama,
SEC
obviously.
country.
Yep.
Well, Devin, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Best of luck.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Steve.